Thanks, and I also want to thank my previous presenter to give a good introduction about the topic of the future in the car. And we use temporal stands in order to look into the future and conduct a user study on driverless cars, which I conducted with Paul, Christina, and Stephanie from the University of Applied Science in St. Augustine, Germany. And we also wanted to understand when the quality of time changed while traveling, what will be the design implications from this stance. And to make a long story short, our main contribution is that time must be used efficiently in modern societies, and because of this, in-car space should be used efficiently too. And in this talk, I want to outline this argument a little bit further. So first of all, what I mean with using time efficiently. Regarding this, there's a rich body of literature in anthropology and philosophy that is really helpful, I think, to understand the actual development in the field of autonomous transport system from a broader perspective. Anthropologists pinpoints, for instance, that different societies have different temporal systems expressed by different rules, different temporal patterns, different temporal symbols. And to give you an example, when the chair show me a yellow card with a 5, I know I have to hurry up. And if he show me a red card with a 1, I know I've got in trouble. So somehow I understood the temporal systems, and hopefully I'm a competent member of this temporal game. In particular, in Western societies, the economic view dominates. Time is a scarce and valuable commodity that must be optimized. This has also, I think, a tremendous implication for our social practices, private, public, as well as working practices. And also, this is a background of economic time views, like the value of time theory. For instance, this theory measures the willingness to pay for time, where we can roughly spoken say rich people are more willingness to spend for the quality of time with regard to 2 dimensions. They pay more for faster transport systems, e.g. using airplanes instead of slower trains, and they pay more for first-class ticket, which allows them to work or relax more efficiently while traveling. And regarding to the future practices of traveling in driverless cars, we could also learn a lot by studying current practices of traveling in trains and buses where passengers have delegated the task of driving to someone else. Research on computers using trains, for instance, have shown that passengers do several activities while traveling, such as working, listening, music, eating, talking to each other, etc. And from temporal-oriented transportation or research, we also know about time rebound effects. So the 25th hour, the extra hour, somehow also have this effect that we have a higher willingness to travel longer distances. So in general, we could believe that faster transportation modes reduce the travel time, which for a single trip is true, while in total these time often then used that we accept longer distances to travel. And in addition, there are some hints there from commuter studies that trains provide a better quality of travel time so that people are willing to accept longer travel time with trains. In other words, driving a car has not the same value at the moment to use the time in the train, but maybe this changes in the future. So with regard to space as a design material, the research situation, it's much more limited, especially in CHI. So as we start our research, it seems that car designers could imagine a future without steering wheels. For them, it seems to be impossible, even in the age of self-driving cars. For instance, even the great Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Total Recall, the cab was controlled by robotaxis using a joystick. It was really funny from a today perspective. But also the first driving concepts of Google, Mercedes and Audi were mainly driver-centric designs, where one of the major problems was the taking control when the autopilot runs into problem. A little bit this has changed as the talks beforehand have shown, and as well the Dagstuhl Seminar 2016 on the future of automatization and the work of researchers like Flickling and others studying what activities people prefer in fully autonomous cars. With regard to passenger-centric research, we also could learn from trains. For instance, trains provide various facilities to use travel time more productively, such as board restaurants, tables, power outlets, free Wi-Fi, white zone, night sleepers, etc. So from this background, we conducted the user-centered car design study, where mainly we asked two related questions, namely what in-car activities people like doing travel in driverless cars, and what kind of interior design people prefer. And we conducted in a quite common participatory design manner, where we recruited 14 participants rating from 18 to 80s, where we tried to get a quite diverse sample of age, gender, car use practices, etc. And with them, we conducted semi-structured interviews asking general questions about time management, mobility behavior, autonomous driving, and quality of time while traveling. Regarding the later issues, we also use inspiration cards, where on the one hand we have trip cards, which present different reasons to travel, for instance, driving to work, going shopping, making a business trip, go to a holiday. And activity cards that outline different in-car activity scenarios, like using the car as an office, as a gym, as a restaurant, kindergarten, as a place for relaxing entertainment, or a place to sleep. So the major purpose was to inspire the participants to think beyond the conventional car design concepts. And in the second phase, we pleased them to build their own driverless cars and the interior of these. Here, the participants could choose between various layouts, such as a small car, medium car, an SUV, or a van. And next, there we have several interior design elements, such as chairs, tables, beds, screens, coffee machines, etc. And here, I want to give you some snippets of the results. Here you see our inspiration cards. And with regard to the previous research, we mainly find the same general categories as outlined by Flegling et al. Studying driverless cars, or Lyons et al. Studying train passengers. So people mentioned activities like office work most often, enjoying the view, relaxation, snacking quite often, entertainment, sleeping, or doing sports not that often. But there's have also some space reasons. However, the inspiration cards, even we did not found new categories, that was quite helpful to enrich our understanding how participants interpret these categories and envision the futures. Regarding this, we saw that the preferences, ideas, and designs were quite different. For instance, the participant 8 was rather modest, wishes to realize his demand for relaxation and enjoyment. And the quote also shows another issue we observed in other cases, that people draw implicitly or explicitly analogous to train designs to envision the futures and express their ideas. Some participants but also came with quite futuristic scenarios, like as we saw in the previous talk, having augmented windows not only for work but also to provide location-based information. Many comments were also about the mobile office, and here one participant outlined a quite similar design of a mobile workplace as we see today in some trains today. A chair, a table to put the laptop, that's all. Quite modest, quite pragmatic. And here we see also, or I want to give you an example, how our participants also made design trade-offs. So we see, in principle, bed would be nice, but because of the space limitation, a chair for napping might be a desirable compromise. So with regard to the layouts, we conduct a kind of spatial content analysis. We have identified two what we call design genres. So one is what we called mobile or tiny houses, because people try to put as much into the van to be prepared for any occasions. So, for example, here we see that here is a bed for sleeping, a table for working, a sport equipment for fitness, a television for entertaining, a couple for seats for friends and family, a fridge for snacking, and space for luggage and shopping. This is really a cramped space. So, and therefore it was not surprising that most of our participants use an SUV or a van because they have not so much space. In contrast to this, some took focus on one major activity, typically working and relaxing, and they also use then smaller layout. We also uncovered design patterns which typically have to do with adaptable spaces. So, for instance, having revolving chairs, having a foldable table so you can use it when you're working, and then folding in and adapt the screen and the chair for watching TV. So, but also we've seen that light was used to change the atmosphere, or one participant came also with the idea of dimmable windows as a kind of privacy boundary regulation. So if you make intimate activities, then they should be blacked, and otherwise you want to see the landscape. So what are the takeaways? We think time and space are entangled, and we should treat them as design material, which is really sparse, and we have to look for a solution how we can use them efficiently. And to prevent a misunderstanding, we did not think that our sketches are technically feasible, or that professional designs, as we saw in the previous talk, could not improve our user-generated solution. However, we think that sketching approach is a good participatory design method to help people to address their dreams, demands, and ideas. And moreover, we find it quite helpful to sensitize design researchers and systemize the various strategies to use space as a scarce resource source. Last but not least, I want to conclude with the question if driverless is an utopia or dystopia. So I not want to go into detail about the ethical issues if computers could make moral decisions or not, but to put, and I think I'm running out of time, to juxtapose the demands of a user-centered car design, where we mainly find, so when we generalize our results, tendency to large and heavy interior designs, somehow implicit owning than sharing, because the self-driving car become a second home, which is highly individualized, and you want not maybe share your private home, and also putting stuff in and outside, it's time-consuming, and therefore we also maybe have time rebounds, and from this view, this contradicts to demands on society-centered mobility, where we ask for smaller, lightweight solution. We ask for sharing than owning, and we ask for preventing rebounds effect. So with this, I want to close my talk, and thanks for your attention.
Thanks for the talk. I'm really curious, did you talk to your users about how long they would intend to be in the car for? The designs that you showed actually look like you'd be trying to do so many things, and I'm wondering if they're thinking about being in the car for hours and hours, or, it's just maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah. You see, we also ask for the regular time, so it's... some of them use this for 1 or 2 hours, but often you also have, or you have some which are only use it for 10 or 20 minutes. So therefore, it's mainly that they are not using it, but they have the chance to using it. It's the same as we have cars where you have 4 seats, but in most of the cases, only one person sits in the car. And the same seems happened here. So they want the option to have a mobile office, even it may be only used 10% of all the time.
All right. Paul Green from the University of Michigan. This might be a bit of a strong comment, and I could have missed something. What's the difference between what you've described and a camper with a chauffeur?
That's also we ask. So if I saw, and therefore we came up with the tiny house. And if you ask myself, if we want to make user study more realistic, I would buy or rent a camper and then offer it as a mobile office, a taxi, in order to see how people work in the camper. So it was really surprising that the future, and if I start with the Buckminster Fuller car design, so it's 15 years old, and I thought maybe this is the future of cars. So looking like a camper where you could do lots of things. So thanks for the comment.
Thank you for the good talk. Shadan from University of Siegen. Following the last 2 questions about the time of the travel and also the camper with a chauffeur, are we really talking about commuting and using this space as a commuting space and take advantage of the time? Or are we, so the question is that have you decided to look into user experience and enactments?
Could you rephrase it? Sorry.
Okay. So the question is that we are taking a car and we are taking the time we are spending in the car and to make it a better space and more efficient timing.
Yeah.
But the question is that if we have the possibility to work from remotely, do we really need to be in the car and limit our space to that car space? And what about user experience in that case?
As I said in the end, so with regard to such ecological issues, telework might be the future of mobility. Still, if we look at the travel time budgets, people seems to be to travel 1 or 2 hours independently how fast the transportation modes are. And if they are have the chance to work or making something else in the car, then maybe they're also not only for work, but maybe also to have a girlfriend in another city or for various reasons to accept longer distances. So if we believe this theory on time management, telework might not be the future even. I hope you are right.